Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Fuente and Meerapfel present Meet the Professor. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Melanie.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi,
Papo del Humo.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey! We are blessed today. We have a hell of a guest of honor on the show. And, well, I'm sure he's going to put a smile to many of you's faces out there. No other than the one and only Aaron Sigmond. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jeremiah. I really appreciate it. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. So get that out of the way. I don't know. Is it Father's Day everywhere? I don't know that it's Father's Day everywhere.
Not in Dominican Republic. We celebrate it anyway.
Right. All right. Cool.
Every day's a Father's Day for us.
Jose, is it where you are?
Yeah, no, not really. But I got a lot of congratulations today from a lot of people, from Carlito, from Jeremiah, from my sons, my kids.
Right.
Everything, but it's great. So this is our first Sunday, and it's going to be now once a week, and we're going to have some fun because we've been friends for many years, and I know that you and Carlito go way back, and you've been in the industry. It's going to be 30 years. So we're going to start off with 1991.
Uh-huh.
You were in California. You was in California. You were doing something at some club, some lounge of something, had to do something with Davidoff's. So let's start off there.
Right. Well, mostly I was on the floor, but that was the martinis. I don't know. They make a great. No, actually, it's no secret how I got into the industry. My father was in the real estate business, and business was not going particularly well. If you remember, 89, 90, 91, there was a recession in the United States, and I was going to graduate school, and I needed a job, and I was spending a lot of time at the Davidoff at Geneva store in Beverly Hills, which apparently I really couldn't afford, but I was there anyway. And eventually, a young man who actually trained under George Brightman, who was on the show, I guess, a couple weeks ago, by the name of Amer Al-Kabesi. And Amer invited me to join the staff, and I became the assistant manager and eventually the general manager of the Davidoff at Geneva store on Rodeo Drive, which is no longer there. But right above the store, there was a private club called the Keep. And it was the first private Davidoff club in the world, as a matter of fact. And we had all sorts of celebrity members who I would assume my NDA has expired, so I can talk about. But, it was nothing like the Grand Havana Room. It was very small. It was very, very, very intimate. There were, I don't know, maybe 80 lockers there. But it was really, really nice. And Davidoff, you have to understand what Beverly Hills and Rodeo Drive were in the early and mid-90s to cigars. It was just one of the true epicenters of the cigar boom in the United States. You could not walk, and Carlito knows this because of all the time he spent at the Grand Havana Room then, you literally could not walk a half block without walking into a cigar store. There was Dunhill, there was Philip Dane, there were just so many. There was Nazareth's, of course. There was Thomas Hine. It was amazing. It was really, really remarkable. And so that's how I got my start in the industry. And while I was at Davidoff, I wrote the business plan for Smoke Magazine.
So that takes us from 1991, 92, you were there. All of a sudden, you come back to where your father was born, the Big Apple, where I was born also too, Manhattan. And all of a sudden, 1994, you start that already you had in your mind, Smoke Magazine.
Yep.
So already, we know Cigar Aficionado was out there.
Yep.
The boom was starting all of a sudden. So what went through your mind? What was the process of you going through this? The excitement, the threats, the things that you go, when you're going through something new, the unknown. How was that for you?
Well, I always say the only reason that Smoke and the subsequent career that I've had is I was genuinely, if I'm being kind, saying too naive, but I was really too stupid to think that this would not succeed. I just didn't understand the concept of failure at that young age. I loved Cigar Aficionado when it came out. My father was a charter subscriber. I relished every issue, but I always felt like it really didn't speak to me. It spoke to my father, but it didn't speak to me. So to me, Smoke Magazine, at least the impetus for it, was truly crafting and creating a magazine more for a younger aspirational cigar smoker. And really also looking at not just the international scene, but the American scene. We talked about small regional manufacturers there that just the bigger magazine didn't. And you got to remember, Cigar Aficionado was the first glossy, but Smoke was absolutely the second. Cigar Journal and other publications did not come along till after. So Cigar Snob and all those things. So there was a lot of pressure on Smoke, to be honest with you. But, you know, we just kind of, I don't know, we just didn't worry about the competition. We didn't worry about what other people were doing. I don't know that I picked the best business partners, quite candidly. But, you know, I was young and live and learn, and they had deep pockets at the time. But I mean, it was, to say it was the experience of a lifetime is an understatement. It was exceptional, and it really put me down this incredible road and path that I've been so very, very, very lucky to travel thus far. So yeah, but I don't know, you know, we wanted younger stars. You know, we had Red Hot Chili Peppers on the cover, for instance. That was something that Cigar Aficionado would have never done. And I believe 2 of them did not have their shirts on. That definitely is something that CA wouldn't have done. You know, it was just things like that. I really wanted to explore it and really, I don't know, get into a different side of cigars that, you know, see it. I remember Cigar Aficionado doing an article about the best school to pick your butler and the best broker to buy your private island. I do okay, but I'm not looking for that island broker yet. One day, yes. So I don't know. It was younger, cooler stuff. We did more stuff with cars. We did more stuff with watches. Unfortunately, there was no Humo Fuente watch yet, but there were a lot of cool watches. So we wrote about younger stuff, I suppose.
Let me ask you something. Okay, so first issue of Smoke Magazine comes out. Do you remember the cover?
Oh, I have a great story about that cover, but yeah, sure.
What was it?
So it was Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. And it's really, so Pierce happened to be one of the members of the Keep, and we had become very chummy. He'd lost his wife about 1.5 years prior to me joining Davidoff, and we were kind of drinking-ish buddies. You know, obviously I was there to help him, but we just became very chummy, and I wound up having some of his personal information. And when I moved to New York and I knew he was coming out with James Bond, and this is what I mean about being so naive. I just didn't know things didn't work this way. So I called Pierce at his house in Malibu, and I said, hey, it's Aaron Sigmond, formerly of Davidoff. He's like, Sig, why are you calling me? And I'm like, well, I'm in New York now. I'm starting this cigar magazine, and I really, really want you to be on the cover. And he just started laughing. He's like, you're such an idiot. He's like, that's not the way things work. And I said, well, what do you mean? He's like, back then they were press agents, not publicists. It's like, well, you got to talk to my press agent. He's like, I think there are only 4 covers I'm contractually allowed to do in the United States for the launch of Bond. And you know, one's going to be Playboy, one's going to be GQ, another one's going to be Esquire, I think Vanity Fair or something, you know, huge, huge national magazines. Certainly not the launch, the premier issue of a niche cigar magazine at all. He's like, you call Dick Gutman, who is still running his PR agency at 80-something years old, God bless him. And he's like, you call Dick, and he'll arrange it. And we're doing a photo shoot with a famous photographer by the name of Firuz Fazad. And he's like, Firuz will shoot some stuff for you, and we'll figure it out. So I call up Dick Gutman. He arranges it. He's like, Firuz will shoot. And they sent me the photos, and they said, look, it is up to you whether this goes on a cover or not, but we know nothing about it. I interviewed Pierce. I flew out back to LA. I interviewed him in Malibu at Wolfgang Puck's restaurant out there. I can't remember the name of it. It basically looked like The Little Mermaid decorated this restaurant. It was terrible. But we hung out for a couple hours, smoked some cigars on the terrace, and and had a great time. Pierce is an amazing guy, and that was it. And he appeared. He was the first cover. But that's what I mean. I was just so naive. How did I know you just don't call up your friend who happens to be a major motion picture star and the next James Bond and at home and say, I need you on the cover of my magazine? I just, that's just the way it went.
Carlito, you remember that magazine? That first issue?
Absolutely. Of course I do. Absolutely. I remember the entire process and everything and all the issues that followed and all that. It was crazy, crazy, crazy times for all of us.
It really was. It's there were so many events and there were so many parties and there were so many launches. Oh, so there's the Hublot. Yeah, rock it out. Show it. There you go. So as Carlito knows, I helped Hublot launch that watch here in the U.S. I consulted. I do a lot of work in the watch industry, and I helped do the event at the Grand Havana Room in New York, which was a spectacular event.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
That was a lot of fun. That was a good time, and it's a spectacular watch. You've done 4 now?
4, that's correct.
Yeah. Is there going to be a 5th? I'll do the interview here.
Only Hublot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, call up Ricardo, man. Let's get it going on. They're all sold out. Zenith keeps on coming out with cigar watches. We got to crank out some more.
No, they are all sold out. As a matter of fact, I got people looking for some, and we're hunting them down and see. So, people still want them. So that's amazing. It's a huge honor to be with. It's not the company of Hublot and LVMH. It's like you mentioned, Ricardo, Rick DeLaCroix, Juan David Ariza. It's one big Inez, one big family. They're just great.
To get off the cigars for 2 seconds and talk about watches, Jean-Claude Biver has helped me so much throughout the course of my career as a journalist, as a watch journalist, and the books. I don't know if you know, he actually wrote the afterword to one of my watch books.
I didn't know.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Great guy. All right.
Also, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, do a 5th, man. We need it. You've never done one in stainless steel, right? They've all been gold and titanium?
Oh, there has been stainless steel, yes.
Or was it steel?
There has been. Now, they're incredible. And like I said, as a people, and Jean-Claude Biver, he's such a powerful personality. He's overwhelming. It's incredible to be with him. It's just, when he walks in the room, it's just, forget it. There's nobody else. He just takes up all the air. He's amazing. Everybody loves him. He just brings so much vibrance and so
dynamic. He is truly one of the most charismatic people I've ever met in my entire life. And it doesn't matter. I've seen him in Paris. I've seen him in Switzerland. I've seen him in the US. I've seen him in China. I've been to all these events. And it just doesn't matter. People gravitate towards him. It's amazing, quite honestly.
Absolutely.
All right, Professor. Go on.
Okay. Carlito, you want to say something?
What?
No, Professor, I'm just thinking, man, isn't this fun? Just, with old friends, someone that I've known for about 30 years. And
25 years? Yeah.
It brings up names like Thomas Hines, which I have not heard of in decades. My mind, all of a sudden, I'm just sitting back, and my mind is just going through that hard drive and everything and picking up information and memories. And I think of George Brightman and, everybody of that era who was, so involved with the cigar world and all the activities and everything that we, that were moments that I don't think that anybody of younger generation will ever witness that. That was something that was so unique.
I remember when Stan opened up the Grand Havana Room. I was there that night. I was at that party.
It was amazing.
Truly amazing. I remember there are cigar smokers now that have no idea what it's like to be in a world without a Fuente Opus X. But I remember when that cigar was launched. I remember the first Dominican Porro. I remember when you commemorated Chateau Fuente. You're just not going to have a lot of those firsts anymore. I don't feel it anyway. Hopefully people will, but I don't know. I just, so much happened between 1990 and 2000 or 2010. It was just such a special period in this industry. I don't know. It's just kind of crazy. All those parties, all those dinners.
There's no question that the industry entirely changed during that era.
Oh, absolutely.
The industry, and it left a mark, for history. No question about it. Any things that are done today evolved from that era. That era was like, you know, it was like the Westerns for Hollywood.
That's right.
You know,
Well, I remember meeting your father. I remember meeting Benji Menendez, who I think you guys had on the show as well. I mean, all these people who were truly legends, you know, they were just there for, you know, Frank and Dan Blumenthal and, you know, all these old school guys. And I got to pick all their brains and all these things that kept on happening and happening. It gives me chills just thinking about
Aaron, you bring back so many memories. You mentioned Frank Blumenthal right away. You know, Sherman Seltzer, Sherwin.
Sherwin, Uncle Sherwin. Oh my God.
Yes, Uncle Sherwin.
Oh my God. Such good stuff, man. And, you know, I thank George for that. You know, Brightman really brought me into that fold in a lot of ways. But again, this takes us back, Jose, to Beverly Hills. I mean, you have to understand every single block had something. So if I wanted to go to then Consolidated, now Altadas, if I wanted to go to one of their events, I just walked across the street to Alfred Dunhill, and there was Dick DiMiola, and there was Benji, who was not working for General yet. He was working for Consolidated. And, you know, they were doing an event. They were launching a new Monte Cruz. They were launching this. They were launching that. You know, that's just the way it was. Davidoff, I was there for the launch of the Special R. You know, that was a real seminal cigar at that time. I mean, Robustos, you got to understand now all these cigars are coming out. 52, 54, 56, 58 ring gauge. You don't understand the stir. I mean, I know you understand, but the audience, the younger audience does not understand the stir that a 50 ring gauge cigar costs. The whole world exploded. If there was Twitter and Instagram then, you know, social media would have gone nuts.
Yes, true.
The industry has changed so much that it's incredible. But let's continue. Smoke Magazine from 1995. Then you were with them 2000 till 2005, 10 years. So
yeah, that's a little misnomer. I mean, the answer is yes, that's absolutely true. But I left the day-to-day operations in 97 or thereabouts. I guess 97, 98, right around there. But I stayed very, very, very good friends with Ted Hoyt, who's still the editor-in-chief. And he asked me to come back and guide the 10th anniversary issue, where actually I got to hang out with one of Carlito's friends, Andy Garcia. So he was our 10th anniversary cover. Did a whole interview with him, did a photo shoot with him, with Greg Gorman, I think was the photographer. It was a huge photographer. It was a big deal. And so yeah, I stayed, but then I did a sequel called Drink Magazine with another set of partners. You know, I did a number of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been busy.
Hey, going back to the years where you were really, you would say the head honcho at Smoke Magazine, if there's one moment in that period, what is something that you'll be to be 130 years old? What was that moment that you could say that was my proudest moment at Smoke Magazine?
Well, proudest moment, you know, there were really too many. I think I knew there were some unique moments. I will say that. You know, the same year I got to attend the 150th anniversary party in both Havana and Orlando. And there were only maybe a dozen, like James Suckling, Brightman, there were only about a dozen of us who were at both events. And I knew that was really, really, really special. You know, I don't know, you know, my years with Smoke, I have to say, were all kind of a blur. There were so many exceptional moments. There were so many events. There were so many parties. There were special cigars made for the magazine. I don't know. You know, I can't say that one in particular really stood out. But I knew the Partagas 150 was special just because I knew so few people had been at both events, the one in Cuba and the one in the United States. So that was unique, I suppose.
This is something I don't know why Jeremiah has such a big interest in this question. So we know that you were the senior editor for the Playboy book of cigars. So,
Finally, we're
I
stopped. We're
wasn't the
not
senior
beating
editor.
around the bush anymore.
so
Now we're getting to the real stuff, right? Aaron,
I was the author. I wasn't the senior editor. I was it.
the author, I know, but I mean, so I don't know. This is not my questions. Jeremiah sent me this one.
Right. I was the cigar editor for Playboy. So, yeah.
now we all take a moment and we bless Aaron Sigmond.
It was a fun gig. So our mutual friend, Richard Carlton Rick Hacker, had the gig before me. And he went over to Rob Report, I guess. And I was friends with Christopher Napolitano, who was the editor-in-chief at that time, or editorial director. I guess Hef was the editor-in-chief of Playboy. And he said, hey, Rick's not with us anymore. Do you want to take over this position? I don't even think the question had left his lips before I said yes, obviously. And, Playboy, Esquire, and National Lampoon were the three magazines that it's no secret, I modeled my magazines after, and were really the reason that I got into the media side of cigars. And so as a result, being able to be the cigar editor at Playboy and then come out with the Playboy book of cigars. Hold on, I actually have a copy just for Jeremiah.
All right, we want to see you smoking a cigar in the grotto.
In the grotto. Those are actually under lock and key. Those particular photos, I think. You got a big sig photo though. I think it's
fantastic.
I put the whole page. What was really amazing about doing the book project is simply this. How the book project came to be is a fantastic story, but also working one-on-one with Hef. When you're a contributing editor to the magazine, or what you were, you didn't get to work with Hef.
Right, Aaron?
You didn't. And
who's Hef?
Hugh Hefner?
No, I'm joking. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. But Hef edited every single book that came. He absolutely was my point of contact with the book. And he would call up, he would chew my ass out. He hated, he was like, rewrite this whole thing. And that was it. But how the book came to be, it's kind of like the Pierce Brosnan story. It's a pretty classic story. I became very, very good friends with the late Leroy Neiman, who was an artist who was one of the first employees at Playboy. Both Hef and Leroy had worked for Esquire magazine in the 50s when Esquire was based in Chicago. It's before Hearst bought them. And I'm having lunch with Leroy at Tavern on the Green in New York. And Leroy says there's a cocktail book for Playboy, there's a barbecue book for Playboy, there's all these books, but there isn't a cigar book. And I said, well, Leroy, that's so above my pay grade. I just, whatever. Now, they didn't really have a lot of cell phones then. I mean, they did, but not everyone carried around. Leroy never did. But they had house phones at the Tavern on the Green, just like the old movies where they plug it into a jack. So we're having lunch. I'm having my salad. I'm having my second glass of wine. And he calls up Mary, who was Hef's secretary for 35 years, at the mansion, gets Hef on the phone, demands that we do a Playboy book of cigars. Hef says, that's fine. Leroy says, I'm going to write the foreword. This is all extemporaneous. Like, we had none of this conversation. He's just on the phone with Hef, and he's like, Sigmund's going to write it. He never called me by my first name or my nickname, Sig. It was always Sigmund. It's like, Sigmund's going to write it. I'm going to write the foreword, and that's it. And Hef's like, yeah, sure, work it out with the editors in New York, and it all happened. And Lee Freilich was the editor-in-chief of Playboy Press, which was their book division. So I don't think anything of it, to be completely honest with you. I finished my lunch. I finished my glass of wine. I walked Leroy back to the Hotel des Artistes, where he had his home and his studio. I went back to the office, which was on 57th and 5th in the Crown Building. I went up, and the office is in a dither. I mean, truly a tizzy. And they're like, what the F happened at lunch? I'm like, I had a Cobb salad and 2 glasses of wine. They're no, what, you're writing a book? And I'm like, oh yeah, Leroy talked to Hef, and I guess they want me to do a book. Lee comes in, it was the whole meeting. They were like, and it was pretty amazing, actually. It was just an incredible, and Leroy did, in fact, do the book, and the portrait in this book, which is beautiful, of Leroy, is one of the last portraits he took before he passed, as a matter of fact. So all in all, it was really a really spectacular. There's our boy Leroy. He's such a character, man. It was great. It was just incredible. And I like to say that mine is the only cigar book in the world with cigars and a centerfold. So, you know, I got that going for me.
Yeah, you certainly do. Yeah.
So it was fun. You guys, obviously, Fuente is very well represented in the book, and it was just, I don't know, it was really a really special experience. But kind of like we were talking about the old school people in the cigar industry, working one-on-one with Hugh Hefner was just an unparalleled experience. I mean, here's somebody I spent my whole life growing up knowing about, reading his magazine, stealing my dad's copies. You know, it was enough that I just got to write for the magazine, but the fact that I got to work with Leroy and Hef and all these incredibly talented editors at the Playboy organization at the time, it was just beyond special. Absolutely beyond special.
So, on a side note, how was working with him? I mean, was he okay? Was he hard? Was he soft?
He was tough. I mean, he was sharp to the end, man. He was so spot on. It really was true. I mean, he meticulously was going through not every page, but every word, every comma. I mean, he was editing this book. I mean, he was my book editor. What do you say? It's up. Carlito was upside down for a second.
Yeah, I was.
Save him.
I'm
Save
back,
him.
man. You know, I'm upside down most of the time.
Yeah, you know, it's a one that you talk about. You asked me, Jose, you know, what was truly a once in a lifetime experience? How do you forget working for 6 months in a row? So when Hef called to edit the book with me, I was in my office in the Playboy offices, and Mary would call, the assistant, the secretary. And she went to say hello. There was no pleasantries whatsoever. Hold for Hef. That's all she ever said. I never had a conversation longer than that with her. I never even said hello. She's like, hold for Hef. Hef would come on. He would chew my ass out about something for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Never a goodbye, never have a good day, just hang up, and he went on with his day. And I just was, you know, that was it. That's how it worked. That's how he worked. It was amazing.
It's amazing. We've always said, I mean, I've been around for a while too. All the connections, all the people you meet through cigars, and I think that's it's memorable. It's a great experience, and I mean, and we're here. We're glad that you're here to tell the story, because maybe if I would tell it or somebody else would tell, no, you're full of shit. That didn't happen that way. But you know, seeing is believing.
Well, I think, you know, I've tried to explain this to people, and people who aren't into cigars and aren't within the industry, or don't, you know, look at cigars as a hobby. I really try to explain it. I'm like, the celebrity, I mean, look at the life that Carlito has led. I mean, the celebrities you meet, the luminaries. I mean, we're talking about people in the spirits business, the watch business, the media business, Hollywood celebrities, musicians. It is really a unifying force, and that is what endlessly keeps me going with cigars. And that is my greatest, my heart just expands with the idea of all the people I've met, all the friendships. I haven't seen Carlito in a number of years, but the minute I see him, I know these people. And I've never known anything like it. Even in the spirits business, the small kind of small batch spirits, it's just never the same. I've never found an industry like this. Watches come close. It too is a very, very, very small industry, which I now have worked in and around for 11 or 12 years. So it's been a while. And again, it's very, very small and very intimate. And watch collectors, take my word for it, as Carlito knows, are, I think, in some ways crazier than cigar guys. They're not just passionate, but they're obsessed. I mean, I love a good cigar, but nobody's going to spend $17 million on one cigar, but they do for a watch. It's mind-numbing.
It's so true.
Right?
It's so true, my brother. No, it really is. It's a special breed of people that you know, they want the best in life, and if they could afford it, they will go for it.
I've said it in so many meetings: watch guys, cigar guys, Scotch guys, bourbon guys, you know, tailored suit guys. They're all the same guys. Sometimes they pick and choose different things, but it's the same demographic, but it's the same psychographic. It's the same mindset, that polymath, true appreciation for a life well lived. And, you know, Jeremiah is all about, look at it. I feel so underdressed with Jeremiah today.
No, you're absolutely right.
Thank God.
You know, whether they're watches, cigars, fine wines, you know, fine automobiles, we all love the same.
Yes.
And the great thing about cigars that it's like the professor says many times, you know, whether you're in a kitchen in a restaurant with, you know, famous chef, or, you know, you're driving an Uber, or you're a professor in university, whatever, you could still afford a great cigar, and you can have that great conversation with the person who owns the 17 million, you know, whatever, dollar watch, or $1.7 million watch.
That's right.
It is the true equalizer as far as luxury goods go. It is the ultimate affordable luxury, which I think we've all said in our own way at various points in time. That part is really remarkable. I mean, it's, you know, that's one of the things that makes it so special, quite honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I want to just, before this program finishes, there's something very important I want to share with the world. And I don't want to, you know, this program to pass without me mentioning it. You know, you're important. You're very important in my life, and you're going to be important for my grandchildren and probably great-grandchildren. Because in our headquarters in Ybor City, Tampa, the Fuente headquarters, there are two beautiful paintings. That's my son who just walked in when today's Father's Day. Carlito, say hello.
How you doing, Carlito?
Hey, man.
But there's two beautiful paintings that, you know, I thought that, no, this is not possible. That, you know, Aaron will never achieve this. But I have two beautiful Peter Max paintings that every time I walk by, you know, I think of you. I'm so grateful how you pulled this off and helped us all in the industry through your relationships. And those paintings just, you know, in that big building with the dark woods behind it, historical, 100-something-year-old building, those bright colors just stand out every time I walk up those staircases. I mean, it's there for everyone to see. And
that is so
and you're
pleasure.
always remembered. And those are special moments. You talk about the 90s, the year 2000, those kind of things. I had Peter Max draw two portraits and everything that which you commissioned, thanks to you. And, you know, those that are in the industry, they have those portraits. That's priceless. And for that, I'm forever grateful. I'm forever grateful for the relationships you had and how you were able to help us all with that memory.
Say it's my pleasure is an understatement. It's, the Peter Max thing was we don't have a show long enough to tell the Peter Max story. It was a whole thing. And there just aren't a lot of them. And of course, we did that in 2008 at the, I was about to say RTDA. I think it was the IPCPR by then. The IPCPR, that is the only time I almost burst into tears doing a speech. I mean, I've done public speaking for so many years. I saw all these people in this room, as we were talking about, all these folks that I've known really since I was a kid, 22, 23. And I really got choked up. And those, and we meant to do it every single year or you know, for a while. But of course, then the financial crisis happened, and that was the end of the Cigar Report. And so there aren't a lot of them. And I love, every once in a while, someone sends me a photo of themselves in front of their portrait, and I just light up. I mean, it's, and I'm so glad that you enjoy them. I mean, that's the most important thing, that you like them, and your children like them, and you know, and I hope the same goes for the Impossible collection of cigars. That's another big weighty thing that that you guys are. There's a lot of you in there.
Yes, absolutely, which we're very grateful. Absolutely.
With great pleasure. Great pleasure.
It is great work, Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sig, you've been around almost 30 years. Like I say, sometimes you've seen the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
So looking at the industry today, looking in the past, and you've been very accurate on a lot of things. You and I have been friends for many years. We've talked. We haven't talked in a couple of years because I've been busy and you also. How do you see the industry today, and how do you see the future of the industry?
It's a great question. I've said for about the last 10 years, in many ways, this is the single best time to be a cigar smoker. Unfortunately, it's also one of the worst times to be a cigar smoker. And by that, I mean the blends that people are coming up with, the globalization, the tobaccos people are able to experiment with and create blends with is unrivaled at any other period in time in the history of the cigar industry. So I think the cigars, and then you look at the technological aspects, maintaining the humidity, analyzing the soil, looking at satellite imagery of what, is going on with a particular terroir, just analyzing rainfall. I mean, the tools we have at our disposal now are just unrivaled. And you can say that about wineries. You can say that about just about any industry, I would suppose. But it's particularly true for an industry like this that, all things considered, it remained unchanged for 300 years, 250 years. With that said, obviously, it's much tougher to find a place like, to smoke a cigar. So, you have to go to a place like Casa Fuente. Not that you don't want to, you want to, but I'm saying we were talking about all these dinners and all these things that we did in the 90s. And, it's so much more difficult. So we're smoking better. We're smoking better conditioned, better aged. All in all, look at the packaging, which is still a huge part of the cigar experience. You look at the boxes, you look at the bands, you look at the detail. In so many ways, it's such an exceptional period to be a cigar smoker. And it's also unbelievably frustrating. I mean, you look at things going on with the FDA here in the United States. You look at all the restrictions and the laws. They wanted to pass a law, I can't remember the city, in California. You couldn't even smoke a cigar in your backyard. I don't think it passed, but it was there on the docket. So, it's such a mix, it's such a yin and a yang in that regard.
Indeed. And, it's funny that you bring that up because the other day, the three of us, Carlito, Jeremiah, and myself, we were talking how much the cigars, I would go 50, I've been smoking 54, and in my personal opinion, I think in the last 15 years, cigars are more richer, more complex, they're more balanced. I mean, they're outstanding. I mean, there's some people out there that are making great cigars. I mean, we have to admit it. And something that I've said for years, and people might not believe this, the better cigars we have in the industry, it's overall better for everybody because it brings enthusiasm for people to really come in and try cigars. I mean, we know there's great cigars out there, but the thing is sometimes, people are just looking for more. And you have people that all time are going to just smoke this brand or that brand and all that. But the better the brands are, it just brings more people to eat out of the pie.
All you have to do is look at what's going on in London right now. In London, obviously a bastion for centuries of Havana cigars. Now, New World, what they call New World cigars, are just everywhere. Every place I go, they're talking about it. It's on Instagram. It's on all the chats. It's on all the Zoom virtual smokers that I've been doing. That I just never thought. I mean, yes, you had certain brands that had a foothold there because they had stores there. But the fact of the matter is, I'm talking about all the New World brands now have a foothold there. And that is a testament, really, truly, to how exceptional this product is. How on a worldwide stage, it's not a matter of them and us anymore. It is a global stage. And every city and every marketplace is really taking notice of that. Jeremiah, you've got to stop monopolizing the conversation like you are. I can't stand you. Just stop.
Aaron, when I listen to you, there's just nothing more to say except for I've got a surprise for you.
All right.
I got an old friend that's going to come on the show.
Do I own money?
He's
Is it
going to, as a matter of fact, you do, and he's gonna ask you a question. He's gonna try to know you on this one, Mr. George Brightman. George, welcome to the show.
I knew it.
Georgie?
George, you're gonna have to unmute your phone.
I'm unmuted. I'm unmuted. I'm right here.
I knew we were going to hear from the Pope sooner
So
or later.
technologically challenged.
Oh, please. Are you kidding? I'm the Zoom Meister. Listen,
Yes, sir.
I just want you to acknowledge one thing. You've been sort of glancingly referencing all through this. You have an unbelievable visual approach to the storytelling of all the things that you have been involved with. You know, Smoke had its own style that was so dramatically different than anything that we've seen before. And all of the books have your eye, your visual. But let's talk about, you know, the work that you've done in that. And in particular, since we have this audience that was so fixated on the Playboy Book of Cigars, I thought you should really tell them some stories about your photo shoots with Tony Borhani.
I cannot tell you about these cigars and these photo shoots because they are very confidential. Yeah, you know, look, you're talking about the ad campaign that I...
Aaron, stop stuttering. Just answer the question.
Exactly. That's it, Jeremiah. Proceed, Perry Mason. Get the witness to testify.
Exactly. This is like being on one of those old-fashioned roasts, I've decided. You know, look, I have a certain eye, I have a certain aesthetic, and working with Tony, as I've worked with a lot of different clients in the industry over the years, yeah, you know, I brought a certain thing, but we're in a meeting with this ad agency. I'll never forget. It was called Lambesis, multiple award-winning, very boutique ad agency. And we come up with this concept. And of course, the first thing Tony says is, I'm going to star in it. Originally, it was going to be a model. And he's like, I'm like, okay. So then we're talking about it some more. And he's like, the girls have to be nude. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all the girls? He's like, yeah, we're going to do, I think it was 6 different shots, maybe 5. But the girls have to be, you won't see anything, but it'll be very, very provocative. It's actually, they're in the Playboy Book of Cigars. But yes, it's, yes, I have a certain aesthetic. Yes, there's been more nudity. But when you were at CA, George, you guys did that whole nude shoot with that playmate. I can't remember her name, but she was lovely.
Yeah, and
there's that naked girl in the Fuente with the hair on her.
Hey! Lay off that artwork. That's a tribute to the family. That's a tribute to the family, and the great Enrico Barone staged that in the greatest of taste. Unlike some of the photo shoots that we've seen used to advertise cigar brands over the years. By the way, I wasn't knocking the Tony Borhani photo shoots. I was just saying that you had a very hands-on approach.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you mean by hands-on? What do you mean by hands-on approach?
So, you know, it's all good. What happens at photo shoots stays at photo shoots, I suppose.
This is where the show gets interesting. Go on.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sweating. I'm like, yes. Oh my God. It's only when you know somebody 30 years that they can bring up such things. You know, I don't know how long we're going, guys, but I did want to talk about the Impossible Collection of Cigars, which is dedicated to Mr. George Brightman. So that is my most recent project. So whenever.
No, it's funny that you bring that up because that was on my list here. You know, I'm an old man. I gotta go by that. I said, look, you and I have talked about this. This is after 25 years being in the business, editor, writer, publisher,
apparently pornography
connoisseur, jack of all trades.
Confession, yeah.
To do it, and you and I talked about it, like without mentioning people that gave a little bit of a hard time getting bands and notes and things like that. But you got all the information needed. I know you put a lot of years, a lot of efforts into it. And it's, from my understanding, the most updated I don't think
Well,
saying the word the most expensive, but it's the most thought out publication about cigars, I think, that the world has seen. So yes, please
Well,
tell
let's
us about
let's
the
see
Impossible
this
collection.
thing.
So
Well,
first of
Yeah.
let's see this thing.
Good point, Jeremiah. Get him to show it off. And tell him not to show us. We don't want to see the B-side collection. Tell him to show us the one with the humidor.
It's, oh God, whatever's in the other room. So
Oh, Sean, too far to go.
Aaron, don't be shy. Pull it out.
I will tell you in so many ways, the Impossible Collection of Cigars is my love letter to the cigar industry. There will never be another book like it. The production costs on this book alone were astronomical. It is the most expensive cigar book in the world. There are two versions of it. The least costly one is about $1,000 US, and the one George was talking about, the Humidor edition, is about double that, I think a little bit more. But it has nothing to do with the price. The artistry cigars are an art. When we talk to our brethren in small batch, whether it's cognacs or bourbons or whatever, there's an art form. This is truly the art of printing. Every image is die cut. Every cigar band is hand applied. There are 100 cigars in this book, of which either 5 or 6 are from the Fuente family. And every single label is hand applied for every single book. So you make 2,000 books, that's 200,000 bands that are just sitting there.
Oh, wow.
So
Aaron, show us a page.
Show us. Show it off. Don't be shy.
It takes so long to get in this thing. Okay.
Dude, just.
It's not, it's you've seen it. You know it's not easy.
Look at that. Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the unboxing YouTube video of Aaron Sigmund's book.
I was not anticipating taking it apart. Hold on. Okay. So
Wow.
it comes out. Here is. I really have to
Oh,
step back.
wow. Look at that.
That's how big it is.
Beautiful.
Let's get to the right. First, we'll get to the right page since it is Father's Day. So we will go to, and then I'll show everybody's favorite page in the book. I don't have my white gloves. That's the way it is. Let's see here. So give me one sec, because it is not earmarked. So this is one of my favorite photos in the book, and this is Carlito and his father.
Beautiful.
See it?
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it's enormous. But the page that we used actually for all the PR shots is this one. Ugh, it's so heavy. This book weighs 20 pounds. It's 10 kilos.
Wow. Yep.
So
Oh,
this is everybody's favorite page, or one of them anyway. And you can see that this is a hand-applied band. And in this case, there are 2 of them. And then we have the cigar on the bottom. That's the exact actual size of the cigar. So there are actually there are 100 cigars in here, but some of the cigars have 2 bands. So if they have 2 bands, they have a hand applied. And every one of those bands is hand applied. Every label is hand applied. The books take months to assemble, months. We already sold out of the first printing of that version of the book, and we did a second one. And there was a 6-month lag just because it takes that long to produce the book. That is really my love letter to this industry. And I said it in my interviews, and I'm saying it, I guess, in this interview, but I said it when the book came out, actually for Father's Day. Funny enough, I didn't even think about that. Came out for Father's Day last year.
That's right.
The book is now 1 year today, as a matter of fact. So
well, how appropriate is this? And
we're
going to be getting phone calls as of tonight. People in Dubai, people in Shanghai, people in Brussels, Paris, London, everywhere in the world. They're going to be calling up, asking where they can find this thing, or asking a professor or Carlito, where do you find this book?
Azuline.com. They're the publisher. I'll do a follow-up Instagram post on it, and with you guys, and it's there. But you were talking about Dubai. There's a Maison Azuline in Dubai. There's a Maison Azuline in London. The books are sold all over the world, so getting a copy is not a problem.
Fantastic. And Melanie's going to put the link on our YouTube page and make sure that people are able to find that. All right, Aaron, what do you get in exchange from George? Because he just he made you show it. So what do we make him show now?
Yeah, I've seen all of George's stuff, and I'm good. Thanks.
All right, George. Thanks a million.
Guys, thanks. Thanks for a great show, by the way. For everybody, happy Father's Day. But I got to tell you, man, great job. Sigmond, you're playing too close to the vest. You gotta just let loose with the confessions.
It's right. You know, I am so endlessly accused of not being humble. I literally said to myself before we got on this, I said, keep it simple, keep it humble. And they gave me shit for the very thing I talked myself up as only a true brother can.
You make our job good.
All right, thank you very much, George. Aaron, now that George warmed you up a little bit, it's that time for Melanie's hot spot. I think she has a good question coming at you, Melanie.
Okay.
So, all right, so let's ask this question. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We can see you also, which is
great. All right. So the question is, what is your most embarrassing moment in your? I want to do editor. Like, what would be your most embarrassing editor moment where you actually publish something? Anything?
Well, I've never been very shy about my my colorful youth. So, I mean, it's really all there. If you go through my 14 books, 2 of them obviously on cigars, but if you go through them all, it's really pretty much all out there. The most embarrassing thing, it's a classic story in the Playboy offices. I was celebrating the Playboy Book of Cigars, and I went to Nobu 57 with Chris Napolitano, the editorial director. We really tied one on, And I don't even remember going back to the office with 2 young ladies, who I guess we were touring the offices with them. And I got so sick in my office. The cleaning crew found me at 11 o'clock at night, completely sprawled out on my couch, like absolutely passed out, not in good shape. They freaked out. They called the security people of the building and said, there's a guy here. So security came, they woke me up. All you had to do is smell me and know that the office had thought I had gone home hours and hours before because my door was closed. I was just there. I would say that, and then I had the worst hangover I've ever had in my entire life, but I was there at 9:30 in the morning the next day, and I was a hero, man, I have to tell you. And people were just, they talked about it all week long. But yeah, I guess that was pretty embarrassing in front of the entire staff.
Moral of the story, stay away from the sake.
Well, that was tequila, and that is definitely the moral of the story.
Excellent. Well, this is what I love about this show. It's incredible. We have a cigar maker, we have tobacco growers, we have people from all sorts, all parts of the industry, and here we are just talking about everything and nothing, bringing back memories, bringing back what makes everything real. And I think the reason why all of us are in this industry to start with, which is sharing the love and the passion of the human aspects of things, you know, all the families, all the people related one way or another to the business. And yeah, it's putting a smile on my face, Aaron, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You. It's Jeremiah. It's been great. And Jose knows I'm actually my really good friend Sam Phillips, who's at another company, is also having me on. I don't do a lot of interviews like this. I don't really particularly care for them. But this
you can hang up now.
You know, but it's really about friends. If it wasn't for Jose and Carlito or Sam, I think on Wednesday or Thursday, it just, I mean, it's more like talking with friends. So it's a very different experience. But I have a propensity not to do these type of interviews. It's just not my jam. And everyone says, do a YouTube channel. when I say I have less than no interest in doing something like that, it's the understatement of the century.
Well, we can tell you that we're very appreciative and very, very thankful. But I think I have a question for you, which I want to get off my chest before we go. You're still obviously a young man, not as young as I am, obviously, but you're still a young man, and I'm sure there's many, many more things that you want to do, or at least you hope to do, and I'd like to know what they are.
Okay. Well, there are a myriad of them. I have 3 books coming out in the next 18 months, so I guess that's something. All of them are watch related. So I have been working on another cigar book. It has not found a publisher yet. My real goal within the cigar industry, here's the thing that drives me insane, truly insane. You look, and actually Jose and I talked about this. You look at the wine industry, every single winery has their own book. Not one major cigar manufacturer, none of them have their own book, but yet they have these unbelievably rich archives with family photos, engravings, product shots, advertisements, all the stuff that people truly, truly, truly want to dig into. And I don't know. I just think that would be something that I would really, truly like to do. But, like I said, I've been working on another cigar book. It is not related to a single brand. Yeah, so that's it. I mean, I always have something going on for sure.
Yeah, I don't doubt it one single second. We have a little routine on the show. We have a joke of the day, and today Rich is gonna put a smile on all our faces. Rich?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Thank you very much. How you doing, buddy?
Fine. Sig, there is a book by Stanford Newman called Cigar Family. It was out many years ago, but it tells their family story with pictures, etc.
Really? I've never, it's funny, I was just emailing with Drew Thursday or Friday. I've never seen a copy. I've never seen it. So I will ask him if he can dig up a copy for me.
If not, I've got 2 paperback and 1 hardback copy of it.
Awesome.
And it's between talking to all you kids, all you young guys, Grand Havana Room. All you young guys. When I was living in New York in the 70s, buying and designing fabric for Hickey Freeman clothing, we had members we were members there, but it was called Top of the Sixes. Did I get lost?
No.
No, you're there.
Yeah, Top of the Sixes is where the Grand Havana Room is today.
Right.
Getting back to my important job is Friday we talked about some French guys and their understanding of the words savoir faire. But today, 2 Brits wind up in front of St. Peter's desk, and St. Peter looks up and says, "Gentlemen, you both qualify to get into heaven, but there's so many great people in the world. We're running an expansion right now, so I only have room for one of you 2 guys. One of them will have to wait, and you'll be in heaven, but you just got to wait a while." And these guys just said, okay, well, how are you going to decide? And St. Peter says, "I think I've got an idea. We'll have a little contest. You guys are going to have to write a little poem." And one guy says, "That should be a breeze for me. I was a poet laureate in England." And the other guy says, "Just a poor plowman. How can I compete?" And St. Peter says, "Well, I'll throw in a little ringer here. In your little poem, you have to use the word Timbuktu." And they both nod their heads and they wait and wait. And finally, the poet laureate of England says, "I have one." And St. Peter says, "Go ahead." He says, "On the way to the promised land, a caravan came into view. Destination, Timbuktu." And the other guy groans, "Oh, geez, how can I compete?" And St. Peter says, "Well, give us yours." He says, "As Tim and I were walking one day, 3 fair lass came along the way. They were 3, and we but 2. I bucked 1, and Tim bucked 2.
Ooh.
Excellent. Thank you very
Long
much,
walk
Rich.
for one punchline.
A lot of groaning.
That was excellent. Thank you very much, Rich.
Bravo.
Sig, it's been a pleasure and an honor for us to have you. When I talked to Carlito and Jeremiah about it, Carlito said, bring them on, make the connections. I talked to you and you were willing to go on. So thanks for being with us. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor for us. And we wish you all the best. And I know that Carlito and Jeremiah will have some nice words for you too also. So take care.
No, absolutely, Professor. When you mentioned about Aaron Sigmond, I said absolutely. He's a world of information. He's brilliant and so talented in everything that he's accomplished. I knew there was going to be a great program, and there's going to be so much information and love shared. And what makes me so happy is that even though we don't see each other often because we're in different parts of the world, but when I see him and hear his voice and everything, and people like George Brightman, and it just takes us back 30 years, and it's just a wonderful feeling to be able to remember all these beautiful moments and times shared together, and all the great accomplishments that Aaron has achieved and he will continue to achieve. And I'm just blessed to consider him a dear friend, and I'm very appreciative of how he's been with me and my entire family all these years.
Well, thank you so much. I keep on saying it's my pleasure, but it really has been. I mean, you guys have, we've talked so much about the family element of the cigar industry, and everyone, whether it was the Fuentes or the Trants, the Menendez, it didn't matter. They brought me into their family. I ate at their homes. I toured their factories. I toured their fields. There's just no greater feeling than the casadas. There's just no better feeling than those feelings. And it's been amazing. And it will continue to be so. I think that's really what it comes down to. I'm excited about all future projects, and my support for the cigar industry will just never waver, ever, as a matter of fact. So that is a fact. But thank you for those kind words, Carlito. It means the world, actually. Thank you.
You're welcome, my brother. Absolutely.
Aaron, thank you very much. It was an honor. It was a pleasure. Thank you for making this moment special. Thank you for writing it in ink in history, helping us write this history and making sure that not only our generations, but the future generations who may have not heard of me or Carlito or Professor or Aaron Sigmond actually can log on and get a whiff of who we actually are and what we actually tried to achieve. And today certainly reflected that. So we show you and we reiterate all our appreciation, our love. Be well. And to everybody out there, make sure to take care of yourselves and of others. And we'll see you next Sunday for Fuente and Meerapfel present Meet the Professor. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Be safe. Be well, everyone. Much love to all of you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you, Papo.